Yeah, let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Byzantine Empire. This week we were going to pick up where the first Christian Emperor Constantine uh, moved the capital of Rome to present-day Istanbul, which was called Constantinople at the time, after Constantine. This is over here in the area of Turkey and the Black Sea. This is the map of the empire, the Byzantine Empire. So Constantine declared religious tolerance throughout the empire, and he established his new imperial residence in Constantinople, declaring it the New Rome. Constantinople was the crossroads of Europe, and the empire stretched from Africa to Asia. He also ruled a lot of different ethnic groups. There were the Armenians, the Greeks, the Italians, the Slavs, Syrians, Egyptian Jews, Arabs, and others. Greek was the official language of Byzantium, and the Byzantine emperors considered themselves earthly rulers under the protection of God. The emperors used art to promote the empire. It was a form of propaganda. What you're going to notice is the art of the empire is going to be different. It's not going to be so classical as we saw before. Things are going to be more flat. Particularly figures are going to be flat. They're going to face front. They're going to have a wide-eyed look. There's going to be a lot of mosaics, a lot of gold background. The images are formed out of tiny tesserae, which are golden pieces of stone, colored stone. So we're going to see a lot of that in the art, and, as well as on the walls of the architecture this week. So the empire gets its foundations with Constantine, and there were other emperors, but when we get to the Emperor Justinian, this is called a golden age of Justinian. He was a great builder and patron of the arts. He built Hagia Sophia. He also was able to get the engineering ability to build massive domes, which had unique vaulting and unique engineering methods to hold those domes up. He used pendentives and squinches. And you will see these in particular in Hagia Sophia and San Vitale. Mosaics were the major form of wall decoration. So we will see in the iconography of the emperors with the way they legitimized their reign. So as far as Byzantine stylistic characteristics, you're going to see a change in the figures. They're going to be more flat. They're going to face front, so flat, frontal, and they're going to float above the ground line. And we're seeing the flattening of forms here in Christ as Pantocrator, judge here, image. So the naturalism and realism of the classical Roman period will give way to this otherworldly appearance in the figures. Architecture are going to be dome-covered, circular plan churches, and there still will be basilica pilgrimage churches that house the relics of saints. So the relics will be very important, and the gold mosaics will become icons which the people worshipped. And when they were worshiping to the icons, they thought they were talking to the saints in Christ himself. You'll see luxury arts in ivory as well. Here's an image of a ivory of Emperor Justinian. You can see the figures are changing. They're getting a little bit more not realistic as we saw in the early Roman period. So the Byzantine architecture, you're going to see distinct characteristics, particularly in the Church of Hagia Sophia. Hagia Sophia means holy wisdom. And in the Church of San Vitale in Ravenna, Italy. Don't forget the empire went all the way to Italy as well. So the characteristic of the architecture of the Byzantine period, those huge domes over a square space. In order to support those domes, the Byzantine engineers had to use either pendentives and or squinches. Pendere in Latin means dome rests on a larger dome, so the weight of the dome was transferred through pendentives and arches to other piers below. So we can see here examples of that. Let's go back here. So here is the main two architectural innovations from the Byzantine period you need to know. The pendentives. So in order to support a huge dome, they either had to make these triangular areas in the vaulting to support the big dome, or they placed the dome on a large block, a square, a big piers that supported the dome. So you have pendentives, which are triangular supports, and squinches, which are more blocky, rectangular in form. Here's the Church of Hagia Sophia. Remember, it means holy wisdom. It's a monumental church. We know who the architects are, and Justinian was the patron. Over time, the Ottoman Turks took over the empire, and so the Muslim religion came in, and that's why you see the minarets placed around Hagia Sophia here in this view. So the Church of Holy Wisdom was, the patron was Justinian, and there was the use of pendentives to support that huge, massive dome. And they also used the semi-domes on either side, so it was kind of supports from the pendentive piers, as well as other supporting massive domes surrounding the big dome-centered space. So you can see here, you've got supports here, you've got big piers, and then supports from the smaller domes on either side. There was clear story windows around the big dome that allowed light to come into the space. That's another term you'll need to know. And then, of course, the walls were covered with golden mosaics. And this is the image of the interior of Hagia Sophia, looking up into that dome that's set on a square block below. And then the clear story windows that look like a chain of light from heaven that allowed light to come into the nave of the church. These walls were covered with golden mosaics, mosaic stones, tiny tesserae stones made of gold and other colored stone lined the walls, and had stories about the Christian religion. Another method of Byzantine churches was a central plan. So this church is San Vitale in Ravenna, Italy, and it is a circular plan church. Justinian was the patron, although they claim he never came to this church, but the mosaics inside pay tribute to Emperor Justinian at the time. This is the plan of San Vitale here. You can see two concentric octagon-shaped dome that are supported by other smaller supports around the big dome to keep it up. And so the people walked around the main ambulatory here. The mosaic program is dedicated to Justinian, as I told you before. This is what the interior of San Vitale looks like. You can see every square inch is covered with mosaics. And then there's the Justinian mosaic program. Program plays tribute. It's on either side of the little nave before the altar. You have Justinian, mosaic on the left, and his wife Theodora on the right, and then Christ as ruler of the world here. So the mosaic program in San Vitale is very much dedicated to being a propaganda to support the emperor's rule under God. So we see the Justinian mosaic here. Justinian's in the center. He's in his purple robe, showing he's emperor of the empire. He's haloed like he's a saint. He's carrying the bread bowl. It's like a procession for the Holy Eucharist. He has a bishop, Maximinius, next to him, and then another attendant holding the prayer book, a censer here. There's this military man on the side, and notice how the military soldier carries a shield with the Chi Rho, the sign of Christ. It's like a P and an X. That was a symbol for the meaning of Christianity and Christ. Notice the figures are all very wide-eyed. They're sort of not making eye contact. They're sort of otherworldly. The figures are very flat. Even the drapery is very flat. It's just simple lines, very, very little sense of a figure underneath. So the figures are flat, they face front, and they float above the ground line. So the images were for propaganda. Here's Justinian bringing the bread like a Eucharistic procession in the Catholic faith. And there's that Chi Rho Iota of the symbol of Christ there. But as we just remember, Byzantine figures are flat, frontal, and they float above the ground line. And they're surrounded or made out of much gold or colored stone tesserae mosaics. Here's the emperor, a wife, Theodora. Her mosaic is on the other side as well. So just be prepared to remember Byzantine art is figures are flat, frontal, and they float above the ground line. The architecture has methods, engineering methods, to support huge domes that were supported either on triangular pendentives or blocky squinches, and other means as well to support, like to buttress the big dome and keep it up. The walls were covered with golden mosaics. Also, these mosaics, the people worshiped them with such piety that they actually thought they were talking to the saints. So this would become a problem over time, because it would lead to an iconoclasm where there was questioning whether icons or images of Christ as human should be shown in churches. So that's another debate. But just remember that there's a lot of gold backgrounds, and then the figures are very otherworldly. They're flat, frontal, and they face you. So good luck this week. I hope you enjoy Byzantine art.